It really was us versus the biggest horse race in the world, the police and the media. And it really felt like this was like David and Goliath, 10 times worse. And this is what happened. Thank you. As Lara said, my name is Rose Patterson, and I've been involved in animal rights activism for about 12 years now, and I joined Animal Rising the beginning of 2020. And to be honest, we wrote the name of this talk quite a few months ago, and a lot has changed, things often change quite quickly within Animal Rising, and it's still about taking on Goliath. That is a theme in the talk, but I think we're zooming out a bit further from that as well. So I'm going to be discussing transformative change as well as taking on Goliath. And just in case anyone doesn't know, Animal Rising started as Animal Rebellion back in 2019 as a response to the climate movement's failure to address one of the key causes of climate change, of course, animal agriculture and fishing. And so Animal Rebellion was formed to address this and kind of wedge this issue into the climate movement and bring about this message of the need for a plant-based food system. And we're all about driving transformative change to create a revolutionary shift in society. And we're here to change the world because we believe that we can change the world. And this quote by Tolstoy captures what we believe. So as long as there are slaughterhouses, there will always be battlefields. And we believe the end of all animal exploitation will lead to a more just and compassionate world. And to do this, we need to start with deep change, starting with transformation on an individual level, also at an organizational level, at a movement level, and then also in the rest of society. And I guess our main focus is transforming our food system because that's where most animals are suffering, and that's one of the key causes of climate change, and it's destroying the planet. We also recognize that we're part of something greater than that too. And we have multiple campaigns all focused on driving, having this mission towards a transformation in our food system, driving towards a plant-based food system and mass rewilding. And the focus of this talk is going to be on our Animal Rising branded campaigns. We also have multiple other campaigns under the umbrella of Animal Rising. So our main campaigns are around creating a cultural shift in society. We want to shift people's values and beliefs around our attitudes towards animals and the planet. And we do this by running ambitious campaigns targeting mega corporations and institutions, and not always, but often including nonviolent direct action. And our aim is to reach millions of people, mostly through getting media attention and reaching the hearts and minds of people. And for example, last year we made front page news in 12 different newspapers, but I'll go more into that later. And we're also focusing on institutional change, so we're focusing on Plant-Based Universities campaign and a Plant-Based Councils campaign, demanding that 100% plant-based catering in universities and in councils. And with transformative change, we're always demanding that 100%. So we're not asking for meat-free Mondays, we're not asking for default plant milk, we're asking for 100%. And sometimes with that ask of 100%, you do get those smaller steps along the way. But so far we've had massive success with both of these campaigns. So with Plant-Based Universities, we've had students passing motions in unis voting for 100% plant-based catering in 12 universities in the UK, and we've just had our first win in Austria as well, with a university there committing to go plant-based. And we've also had 5 councils around the UK committing to go plant-based too. And we also have 34 other campaigns in the councils campaign, 34 different cities involved. And by serving plant-based food in these institutions, we're transforming the culture within them. So the students and those attending council meetings are going to be more frequently exposed to plant-based food and the idea of plant-based eating and vegan lifestyle, and the idea of the need to transition away from animal agriculture into a plant-based food system. So the culture that is set on the inside of any organization or institution is reflected on the outside too. And our final kind of stream of campaigns is influencing stakeholders. And One we set up a couple of years ago is Vegans Support the Farmers, and that's about building an allyship between vegans and farmers to find ways to work together to transform our food system. And in all of our campaigns, we act with compassion for everyone, including our opponents. And we target companies and institutions and systems, and not the individuals within them. And this year, we've also started a campaign on the RSPCA as one of the main stakeholders in the animal movement. They're the largest and oldest animal charity in the world, and they're still promoting the consumption of animals. And so we're trying to transform them to help all animals, not just cats and dogs. But I'll explain a bit more about that campaign later too. And so why do we think transformative change is needed? Well, first of all, times are urgent. We're in the midst of a climate crisis, and the animal emergency is not getting any better. We're seeing the number of animals being slaughtered every year increasing year after year, and so we need to act with urgency. Also, we're not in the 90s anymore. It's not that radical to be talking about veganism or a transition to a fully plant-based food system. People are far more open than they were 30 years ago. We need deep, unreversible change, and that includes in our cultures, in our economies and society, and all of these things need to transform. We can't just stick a Band-Aid on the problem. People need to understand the issues and want to transform with us. We need to take everyone along on this journey. And when we strive for transformation instead of just incremental change, we often get those incremental changes or welfare reforms along the way anyway. Like I gave that example with the Plant-Based Universities campaign. Also with our Grand National Action last year, we saw welfare improvements when we asked for the 100% of the end of horse racing. So we also see some parts of the animal movement are stuck in what I feel like is a kind of defeatist mindset that animals are always going to be eaten, and therefore we need to improve their welfare or just focus on the welfare. But we disagree. We believe animal liberation is possible, and we believe that that should always be the end goal. We should never compromise. Yeah, I think hopefully everyone agrees with that here. And transformative change is inspiring as well. We're not going to inspire others by having weak, uninspiring demands or campaigns. We need to bring more people into this movement by inspiring them and wanting them to join us. And finally, we also need to work on our personal transformation. That's really important, to put resources into helping individuals in our organizations, in the movement, to help develop ourselves, because this helps everyone and it helps our movement grow and learn. And transformative change can't be achieved without nonviolence. This is something that is, we're basically rooted in nonviolence. All of our campaigns, everyone is trained in nonviolence. And it's a philosophy and strategy for social change that rejects the idea of using violence or force to achieve our goals. And it's often misunderstood as the absence of violence. However, I would say it's more of like a way of life. It's something that you can't just learn overnight or in one training. I think all of us in Animal Rising and in, I'm sure, other movements or other organizations are also on that journey. And it's something that is rooted in principles of compassion, respect for life, and the belief that conflicts can be resolved through peaceful means, like dialogue, like civil disobedience, and non-cooperation. And lasting change, I believe, comes from winning hearts and minds and not inflicting harm on others. And we follow the principles of Martin Luther King, who led the civil rights movement back in the 1960s. And for example, these are the lunch counter sit-ins I'm sure many people here have heard of. In case you hadn't, basically all activists went through rigorous training, weeks or months of training in nonviolence to prepare themselves for the violence that they knew they would receive when they went out onto the streets. And they would do simple actions like sitting in segregated lunch counters, just showing and embodying the world that they wanted to see in the future. All they would do was just sit there, ask to be served, and maybe do their homework or read a book and be completely peaceful and nonviolent. And then they were subjected to serious violence and remained nonviolent the whole time, and managed to win over the hearts and minds of the general public because they could see that what they were doing was right and rational and reasonable. And so we need to be able to embody the change that we want to see in the world. which is why we do everything accountably as well. So we show our faces in all of our actions. That's why I'm standing up on stage today and about to explain to you how we planned multiple actions. We're not afraid. We know that we're doing the right thing. We're on the right side of history, and we're here to set an example. And we want to, or if we want to live in a world, a non-violent world, then we need to look inwards and develop ourselves personally too. And so this is a diagram of personal transformation. And I think, obviously, it's not like this every time that you're learning or a transformation, but I think it's often the times when we hit rock bottom and then come out the other side is when you learn the most. And so this is Mount Stupid and going down to the Valley of Despair. And I feel like every time I write a talk, I kind of like have a good idea for a talk on Mount Stupid, and then I start writing the talk, and I'm like, do I actually know anything, or does anyone want to hear what I have to say, and fall to the Valley of Despair, and then hopefully kind of crawl up the slope of enlightenment and come out with, hopefully, all right talk in the end of it. And so it's like this personal transformation that we've gone through multiple times, I think multiple times a year in Animal Rising, where we doubt ourselves, we question what we're doing, and then we learn more, and we speak to others and research and make mistakes along the way, and that's how we've learned and grown as an organization. And yeah, I think this basically, every time you go through this process, it instigates breakthroughs in ways of thinking and creativity as well. So now I'm just going to ask everyone to turn to the person either to your left or right, or maybe behind you, if there isn't anyone next to you, and discuss. I'll give you 2 minutes each to discuss a personal transformation that you've been through. And it doesn't matter how big or small, it could have been something that happened this weekend or something that started your journey in activism. But yeah, I'll give you 2 minutes each. I'll let you time that, and then I'll let you know when 4 minutes is up. Okay, go. Yeah. Oh, is my mic working? Yeah, time to wrap up those sentences and then we'll come back. Cool. Thanks, everyone. I think we've got time to it would be really nice to hear from one person if anyone really wants to share their time of personal transformation. Does anyone want to explain those really concisely? Yep. Do you have a mic? Do you have the mic?
Well, maybe it's not really related to animal rights, but for me, I've lived 1 year in India, and it was quite transformational to see how animals are treated there, to see what some activists do. I personally did a yoga program 1 year long, but it was very impactful. You can imagine what I'm talking. I mean, the animals live a totally different reality there. So,
nice. Thank you so much for sharing. And it would be really nice to talk after lunch about during lunch about other people's personal journeys of transformation as well. I think it's so important. But yeah, now I'm going to give you, tell kind of 3 stories or examples of key periods of transformation, or key learnings in animal rising's history that taught not only myself, but I think everyone in our organization, key lessons that helped us transform in our thinking, shape our values, and gave us the power and vision to run ambitious campaigns. So I'm going to start with McDonald's 2021. And the beginning of 2021, trying to work out what campaign to do. And I think we chose McDonald's. It's obviously a fairly obvious target. A lot of people dislike McDonald's. They're the biggest fast food chain in the world. It's an ambitious target. I think one of the key reasons, or the key reason we decided to choose McDonald's is because we learned they only have 4 distribution centres in the whole of the UK, supplying their 1,300 restaurants. And so we thought, great, we'll just shut down all of their distribution centres and cause mass food shortages in their restaurants, and kind of easy peasy. And then we actually started, it was actually a really small team as well back then. It was 4 or 5 of us mostly working on this. And we started to do research into the distribution centers, and we started to doubt ourselves because we realized we have no idea how to blockade a distribution center. We don't know much about the McDonald's supply chain, and we didn't really know that many people that we would be willing to sacrifice themselves or to get arrested for blocking a distribution center. And so we thought, we don't actually know if we can even pull this off. And so we had a meeting and we were talking about maybe just blocking 2 distribution centers because this felt so much more doable. We knew we had a higher chance of success if we just went for the 2. However, we decided this just wasn't that inspiring. It wouldn't cause food shortages for a start. They would just redirect trucks from other distribution centers. It wouldn't have that impact that we really wanted to have. So we decided to go for the 100%, not the 50%, and just find a way to do it. And so we had to open up and start working with others, reach out to others from the climate movement, and we would not have done this without collaboration. And this is when Extinction Rebellion disrupted or blockaded a newspaper distribution center. And so we started working with people from Extinction Rebellion to help build these structures that we call beacons. They're made from bamboo. And they were, at the time, highly effective in blocking anywhere, basically, until the police started learning how to take people down faster. But at the time, this was really new. And so we had to work with Extinction Rebellion. We brought in non-vegans to help make this happen. The target of McDonald's was a really great one in bringing people from all different movements into this one action, because people came in, helped us build these beacons. We made them by hand. I think we had to make 6 of those. We were building lock-on tubes and tripods, things like this. And so we were just making everything by hand over a few months. And it was just months of hard work and resilience. And it's hard to describe the stress and physical and mental pain that you go through every time you're planning actions like these or campaigns. And we say it's kind of like childbirth. You go through so much pain and you say, I'm never doing this again. And then you kind of forget about the pain and do it again next year. And it's like that. I think I'm going to have a heart attack at some point because it's like this every single year, and it's like highly stressful. And so on the 22nd of May 2021, over 100 people across the UK in 4 different locations were getting up before dawn, not knowing what was about to happen and unsure whether we were even going to pull this off. At that point, there were so many people that knew about this action. We were quite sure that surely the police or McDonald's knew what we were about to do, so we had no idea what was going to happen. And then each team started assembling their beacons and tripods. And my team was we were on a residential road with cars driving past, building this beacon, and we had like massive problems, a nightmare, and it took about half an hour to assemble it. And as we were still trying to assemble the beacon, I got a message saying the Manchester site had been blocked. And then I got another message saying Hemel Hempstead had been blocked. And then another one saying Coventry had been blocked. And then finally, we got our beacons up and our trucks, and we blocked the 4th site. And we caused food shortages up and down the country in McDonald's restaurants, with some of them closing down for the day as well. We got national media coverage, and we really inspired the movement, and this was a game changer for Animal Rising. It was like the first big action that we'd ever done. And I think our key learnings from this were like ambition, like going for that 100% is so important. If we'd only gone for those 2 sites, we would not have succeeded in the way that we did, and I don't think Animal Rising would be where it is today. And it really did feel like taking on Goliath. Like, we were just like this small group of 4 people taking on this massive responsibility and massive goal, and somehow we did it through sheer determination and bringing in other people. And it was a gamble, and I think taking risks is really important, and we always say high risk, high reward, and yeah, when it works, it's totally worth it. And even when it doesn't work, you still have massive learnings from it. And I think this experience transformed everyone involved. So yeah, not just like the team that was like making everything, but it was also the people on the ground like hanging from those beacons for hours. And it just felt like knowing that there's all these other sites across the country and hundreds of people involved, it just felt so powerful, and also transformed Animal Rising and gave us the power to believe that anything is possible. And now I want to talk about beagles the following year, 2022. So at the beginning of 2022, we started discussing the possibility of rescuing beagles from MBR Acres. And in case anyone doesn't know, in the UK, we still have MBR Acres, which is a beagle breeding facility for animal testing. And it used to be called Huntington Life Sciences, so that's where the Shack campaign was targeting. And in 21, a protest camp called Camp Beagle was formed outside MBR Acres and is still there today. And Camp Beagle really brought this issue to the surface, and I don't think without Camp Beagle, I don't think we would have attempted any beagle rescues. And there was myself and a few others in Animal Rising that just felt really strongly that we should try and rescue beagles from MBR Acres. Although it was very different to all of our previous campaigns, there was no climate message, obviously. It's not about animal agriculture. It's obviously very animal rights focused. And so there was a bit of a divide in Animal Rising about whether or not to do it. However, those that felt strongly that we should do it just kind of pushed through and made it happen anyway. So we started speaking to activists and people that had been to MBR in the past. There have been rescues in the past too. But we were told by many people, not everyone, but a lot of people were telling us this is impossible. There's 24-hour security, there's barbed wire, there's CCTV, and these fences. Oh, this is like a high security prison, but it looks similar to, it does look quite similar to MBR. It just, they don't have the tower, but it's actually quite similar. And the fences are a little bit lower as well. But yeah, it's like, and would also face up to 10 years in prison as well. So like that was also a problem. Well, not necessarily, but yeah, so I guess a lot of people doubted us, and we also doubted ourselves as well. And we'd never done anything like this. I'd never broken into anywhere like this before. So yeah, again, it felt like this David v. Goliath situation. We thought regardless, like it's worth trying. We're trying to save some lives here. We'll try anyway. We've got nothing to lose. And we put so much effort into wrecking the premises and working out ways how to break in, speaking to a lot of people. And again, it was like all this stress and hard work that went into this. And then we had a plan of a small group of people were going to go in and rescue the beagles, while a bigger group were going to occupy and create a distraction for the security and the police. However, the morning of the action, police were already waiting outside MBR. Someone had tipped them off. So instead, we decided to climb over the fence anyway, get inside. We did this occupation, did like a big banner thing and a drone, but honestly, like, I was so crushed. I think everyone was crushed that, the police had been tipped off and we couldn't rescue the beagles. But we also used that opportunity to walk around the premises, and security actually, well, there was too many of us, to be fair, so they just let us walk around and film through the windows and the doors. And it was the first time we saw with our own eyes those concrete pens and the hundreds of puppies in them. And we filmed the doors as well, and the windows and the vents, in case there was an opportunity to come back and rescue those beagles. And then later that day, myself and others got arrested for aggravated trespass. And when I came out of the cell later the same day, I was told that others had been planning, while I was in the cell, others had been planning to go and rescue the beagles later that night. But I was just so exhausted, and like I said, I was just absolutely crushed. I think it's the first and only time I've really been burnt out, and I had just, like I said, I have to go home and I can't go on, but I knew they had the plan, they knew what to do. And I just really had to go home and lie down and sleep. And obviously, I kind of regret that now, but I think at the time, I could not go on. And I woke up to messages in the morning that 5 beautiful beagle puppies had been rescued by Ben, Bo, and Dan. And they told me their story. I heard that as they were cutting the fence, there was a security guard on the other side of the fence, but that didn't stop them. They just carried on, and they carried on going through the fence, even with security there. And somehow, I'm still not sure how, they still managed to break in, break the door open, get the 5 puppies out, still with security there. And it is that mindset, that fearlessness that gets us through those situations. And they saved 5 lives that night. And I think the key learnings from this whole process was to listen to your intuition. If something just feels right, like, listen to your heart. And I'm so glad that we listened to our intuition to go to MBR and rescue those beagles. And I think this action, I think it was one of the reasons we wanted to do it, was because we knew it was going to inspire the movement and kick others into action too. And I think it's probably one of our best known actions, even though it's not really like our main focus. And also, when we put our minds to something, anything is possible, even if there are barbed wire or fences or security guards and locked doors. It doesn't matter. It's like, if you're determined, if you believe you can do it, you're going to do it. And don't let anyone tell you that you can't do something. And I am so glad we didn't listen to those people that told us that this was impossible. And again, being accountable for our actions. Ben, Bo, and Dan showed their faces. They handed themselves into the police afterwards. It's so important to show what we're doing and embody the change that we want to see in the world, because if no one knows what we're doing, how is anyone else going to change? And, we didn't think that was enough, so 6 months later, we did it again. This time, we went with a bigger group of people. We rescued 18 beagles. And now 18 of us are going to Crown Court. We're going to be seen in front of a jury where we'll be putting animal testing on trial. And this is exactly what we wanted. We want to go to court and put animal testing on trial, because we know that we didn't do anything wrong. We did not break the law, and we're not going to be denying our actions. And this is the beagle rescue.
We're here, we just freed I don't know how many dogs from here at MBR Rangers. It's absolute hellhole. All the dogs here are gonna die. All right, everyone stick to the plan. All right, in.
We've just rescued as many puppies as we could.
Evan, this one!
These beautiful beasts here. It breaks my heart that we can't rescue them all. We've taken as many as we can, but that's why we have to put animal testing on trial. So that the suffering of all beings, these beautiful, beautiful sentient beings, will feel the pain and suffering that animal testing puts them through.
We're just walking up back to the perimeter because we are accountable for our actions. We are handing ourselves in because we know this isn't illegal. We know this is a morally correct thing to do. We're gonna go over the fence the way we came and walk over to the rest of our team.
Animal testing is wrong, unequivocally, undeniably wrong, and these people must be held to account, and we must keep fighting until we can stop animal testing once and for all.
I've got one final story for you, and that's about what happened with the Grand National in 2023. And so this was last year, and we decided to disrupt the largest horse race in the world. And this was when we were rebranding as Animal Rising, so we knew we needed to do something big and to get our message out there. And so we decided the Grand National as one of the biggest, if not the biggest, animal event in the UK. 600 million people around the world watch this event. £300 million worth of bets are placed on that horse race. And horses die every single year. And it's a huge platform to call for the end of all animal exploitation. And we needed to mobilize as many people as we could to cause any sort of disruption to this race. And we wanted to use people power and use our bodies to stop the harm. When we mobilize, we're as open as we can be, only adding layers of security where absolutely necessary. And this is a risk we're willing to take. It means that we'll increase the number of people that are going to get involved in the action. It creates a culture of trust and inclusiveness and fearlessness. And there is no fear of being caught if we're taking action accountably. So we called up hundreds of people that are already in our network. We didn't actually know all of them personally, but we invited them all to trainings and in preparation for this action. And obviously this was risky, and sometimes you do get screwed over. And this time we were. So one of the people that we called was an undercover journalist from the Mail on Sunday. And unbeknownst to us, she attended one of our trainings and basically filmed the whole thing and handed this evidence over to the police and newspapers. And so 2 weeks before the Grand National action, we were on the front page of a national newspaper, and we found out about this, I think it was about 11 p.m. the night before, and so we had an emergency meeting about midnight to decide what to do. Should we give up, or do we carry on? And hopefully by now you kind of get where I'm going to go with this, but of course we didn't give up, and instead we decided to double down, and we announced publicly to the media that we're going ahead and we're going to disrupt the Grand National anyway. And we knew this was really becoming impossible and kind of crazy. However, we knew that even if we didn't make it onto the tracks, just the idea of a group of people announcing that they're going to disrupt the biggest horse race in the world was a news story in itself. And we did get a lot of press leading up to the Grand National. But yeah, also leading up to the Grand National, when we were doing recce's and preparing for actions, we had our team getting followed by, still unsure who, but yeah, probably police, having vehicles getting followed, GPS trackers put on vehicles. And the days leading up to the action, warrants were put out for people's arrests. They were trying to take out key organisers, and I myself was arrested on a train the morning of the action. There were also police helicopters flying over the racecourse that day. There were police on quad bikes going around the perimeter of the track. There were drones, and there were hundreds of police in police vans. It really was us versus the biggest horse race in the world, the police and the media. And it really felt like this was like David and Goliath, 10 times worse. And this is what happened.
My name is Gemma.
My name is Bo.
My name is Sarah Foy.
And I'm taking non-violent direct action with Animal Rising today.
Disrupting the Grand National is just the start, so says campaign group Animal Rising.
We need to challenge the way that we view non-human animals. We currently view them as commodities.
It just makes it so real when you see their names and the reasons why they died. And they didn't have to die.
70,000 people will witness the National in person and millions more will watch on television.
But there are concerns that this year's Grand National could be overshadowed by protests.
I believe that the reason why we're doing it is what's most important, and again it's to draw this attention to our broken relationship with animals and the natural world and how this needs to change.
We're trying to protect those horses by being there on the tracks.
Some of those horses have better odds to die than they do to win, and we don't think that's right.
I want a plant-based food system where we can see all these animals free, all these animals free from exploitation.
It just isn't okay to profit off the exploitation of animals.
I believe in a world that's better than this. I have to believe in my heart.
This is a developing situation here at Aintree. Some have been successful in getting over. This is a big news story as well as a sports story. With the Merseyside police. So we might well have a delay here at Aintree.
That a small group of people can change the world indeed. In fact, it is the only thing that ever has.
And there you can see what they are trying to do to get into the racecourse to try and disrupt the Grand National. And some, as you can see, have got onto the racecourse.
These 118 people have been arrested.
Those in the morning outside the race course.
So I can see time's almost up. But yeah, so that day, 118 people were arrested. We were the top news story and continue to get interviews in national press the following weeks. And even this year, we've continued to get press around the Grand National, even though we didn't go and disrupt this year. So they're still speaking to us about it. And we had 11 front pages linked to that action. And we were able to bring the conversation around our relationship with animals and nature to the public. Oh, sorry. My mouse has disappeared. Anyway, I think it's fine. But yeah, we can also, it doesn't have to just apply to direct action. We can also apply these learnings to other forms of activism and tactics. For example, earlier this year, we released the largest investigation in UK history, despite none of us having any investigation experience prior to this. And we exposed 45 RSPCA assured farms. And we needed to think ambitiously. We didn't want it to just be another investigation that gets forgotten about in the press. We wanted to put as much pressure on the RSPCA to help them transform as we could. And we had to do this by opening up and bringing in volunteer investigators. So we actually had around 50 people volunteering with us to help us make this happen. And it just proves that bringing people in is so important, and to do these ambitious campaigns, but also to grow the movement and to give people these transformative experiences, because I know everyone that visited one of these farms was transformed too. And as a movement, we need to think about how we're collectively going to transform society. And we also need to take responsibility to develop ourselves on a personal level too. We each have so much untapped potential, and we need to believe in ourselves as well. And we want everyone that comes into contact with us to be transformed. And this quote from Diane Nash, there is a source of power in each of us that we don't realize until we take responsibility. And I think that is so important, and I hope that people go away from this conference thinking about how they themselves can transform themselves to be better activists, better members of society, and to help transform, whether it's an organization you're working for, or transform the activism that you're doing for the animals. And that's because since I began my talk, millions of animals will have been slaughtered, and right now I'm afraid that we are failing them. The animal movement needs to be acting with more urgency. We need to be taking bigger risks, and we need to be open to collaboration and bring more people into the movement, and we need to be more ambitious with our demands and our actions. Thank you.
Unfortunately, we don't have any time for questions anymore, but I thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for your talk.